What I'm going to do is introduce myself first. I'm Mary Murphy. I'm here, the president of the Brant Rock Village Association. And if you guys have any emails or Facebook, that's me. That's who the person that's posting. And really the purpose of the Brant Rock Village Association is twofold, really three. Beauty, beautification, safety, and it's also education to try to bring the community together so that we all know what's going on here in Brant Rock from a town perspective. So we just want to make certain that, again, it's about beautification, it's about safety of the folks that visit or residents that live here, and then it's also about coming together as a community to make certain that our voices are heard. And that is what this association is about. It is not any political agenda. There's nothing else involved in this, and so I just want to state that. So we have quite a few things on the agenda for today. The first one is going to be an Esplanade update. We have a few guest speakers, which we're pretty excited about. Scott Dixon's going to lead that conversation. He's going to be going through a DPW recap. We have Stantec who's coming. They're going to give an update on some grants and some, hopefully, what might be happening. And then some updates on the bullnose design. Then we're going to go right into BRV housekeeping. We are going to recognize some folks that have purchased benches on behalf of loved ones. And so we want to make sure we recognize them. We have a few other housekeeping items, some budget, neighborhood captains, and then most importantly, over on this table right here, where you're going to see your sign-up sheets. So we have a bunch of different committees that have been put together: safety, beaches, planting, flooding. You know, we want people to get involved in all parts of this conversation. And really, we can only do that by coming together as a strong a member group. And so that's really what we're here to do. Everyone is going to have a chance to have their voice being heard. So if you have a question or anything, just raise your hand and we'll try to bring the mic over to you, or you have come over here so that everyone can hear what's going on. And that's what I got going on. So Scott, I'm going to pass the mic over to you. And again, thank you so much for coming, and I hope that everyone continues to form and this organization just gets bigger and stronger, because we are Marshfield. There's not one individual person that should really be running this town or this area. Right?
Thank you, Mary. Can everybody hear me? All right. So, first of all, thank you to Marshfield TV. I guess you guys are the people that brought the microphone tonight, so we appreciate that very much. Last time we had some feedback that people couldn't hear us, so hopefully this is better for everybody. Last time we met on August 2nd, and the community here came together on a plan known as the Bullnose Plan for an improved traffic design and sidewalk for the Esplanade. And it was overwhelmingly, the group here was overwhelmingly in support of that. So on August 16th, Mary and I met with Tom Reynolds, the head of the Department of Public Works, and a guy named Jim Fitzgerald, who is the principal that we've been working with from Environmental Partners Group, the group that actually designed the bullnose design. We met with them on August 16th, and the purpose was to convey the wishes of the Brant Rock community on that particular plan, and to find out what the next steps were as far as getting that warrant on, or that work on the town meeting warrant. So Environmental Partners Group came up with an estimate to finish the engineering costs. It's Article 6, line item number 32 on the October 18th special town meeting warrant. It's Article 6, line item 32, and we'll follow up this meeting and send this all out via email as well. The cost they've estimated to be not to exceed $89,200 to complete the engineering work. A couple of people have said, well, what do you really need to do engineering work for? You do. Obviously, they have to take that design that we showed you and you guys agreed to, and they have to figure out how many linear feet of curb is needed, what exact size the bullnose is going to be. They have to make sure that the fire trucks and other trucks that service the restaurants down here can make the circumference of the bullnose without impacting anybody else's property, etc., etc. So the October 18th town meeting is really critical, and if you want to see that design move forward, we implore everybody who's a voter here to go to that meeting and vote yes on Article 6, line item 32. Hey, Jason, how you doing? Okay. Any questions about that? That's the first topic that I wanted to address. Question? Yes.
Sorry, I'm late to the conference.
Okay.
This is my first meeting.
Yeah.
I just wondered if you could give me a quick summation of as to why the bullnose was chosen over the rotary.
The bullnose was chosen over the rotary because the emergency vehicles would have an easier time navigating it. All right, so from the town's perspective, that was a more attractive design. From the survey that EPG did, there's very little traffic coming down Ocean Street that would turn left onto Island Street.
Okay, so they did do a traffic count.
They did a traffic
because
count.
I live right there, and I do see a lot of traffic coming down Ocean going to Island Street.
Okay, they did do a traffic count, and it supported the study.
My other concern on that, looking at the design, is I'm at 226 Ocean, and there's kind of like little islands in there. Am I going to be able to take a left into my driveway, or am I going to have to go all the way around and come
You will be able to take a left into your driveway. So the next phase of it, I know exactly where you live. Yeah, I know exactly where you live. You'll be able to take a left there, and the next phase, where we've gone from design into engineering, is they actually come out here with tape measures. You know, I'm oversimplifying it, but they come out here with and literally measure every square inch of that part of the esplanade that's going to be addressed, and to make sure that they can accommodate all the things that we've asked for. And if they have to adjust the design, they'll adjust the design, and they'll come back and let us know that. Okay.
The other driveway closer to me, it's a 6-unit apartment building, so they have, at least 6 cars there, and there's 4 cars out back. So as long as that's not blocked either.
It's going to be very tricky. They're going to try to develop a curb along this side of the, and a nice sidewalk, a real sidewalk on this side of the street, but there's a lot of curb cuts. There's a lot of driveways. There's South Street, there's North Street, there's multiple driveways, there's several businesses, so they're going to do the best they can with what they've got. But it's going to be an iterative process where they're out here.
Right, I'm sure that we don't want to create more traffic for another section of town by what we're doing.
Right, that should not be happening. That should not be happening. But it's a fair question. I understand it. Other questions? Okay, October 18th, Article 6, line item 32. If you go to town meeting and vote yes, that'd be a really good thing to do. The second article is another article on the town meeting warrant on October 18th that I want to bring to everybody's attention because it specifically impacts Brant Rock. It's Article 22, and it's the objective is to amend Article 13 of the Brant Rock Village Overlay District. So many of you know way back in 2013 or 2014, this area was rezoned as a Brant Rock Overlay District, and it was approved at town meeting. And the objective back then, that's when there was first a lot of momentum around let's work on the Esplanade and try to improve not only the roads and the sidewalks, but also try to encourage the local businesses to reinvest and make the area look a lot nicer. So the Brant Rock Overlay District zoning has been in place now for 6 or 7 years. And we've had everybody, the Boston University team has looked at it, and other consultants have looked at it. It's really solid zoning. But in the process of working with the local businesses, one of the suggestions, I'll put it that way, from the local businesses is because of the requirement to go up 12 feet and then put a boardwalk in front of their buildings, which is what the Village Overlay District is going to require. They have asked that the town consider going from a 2.5-story height restriction to a 3-story height restriction on the buildings facing the Esplanade area here. So the maximum height would be 35 feet plus the 12-foot required by FEMA flood maps. So a total of 47 feet high. So right now the zoning would approve a 2.5-story building on top of the 12-foot height, and this zoning amendment is asking that they go from 2.5 stories to a full 3 stories. Personally, I know this might be new information for some of you if you haven't read the town warrant. Personally, I think it's a smart thing to do, because part of what we're trying to do here is not only improve traffic and the safety, but improve the look and feel of the Esplanade. And the feedback from some of the businesses, the cost to develop is prohibitive without that additional opportunity. Yes?
One of the restrictions they had, or one of the reasons they didn't want it so high, was they didn't have a ladder truck that would get that high. Do we now have one?
Apparently the fire department has given its blessing to this.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they have. The other, I've read through the article in detail like 4 times before I came here tonight. The other amendment is the 3rd story would need to be set back 6 feet from the facade of the building on the front and 6 feet from the facade of the building on the back. So you're not going to be standing up and looking at, a 47-foot tall thing. You're going to be looking at 2 stories, and then the 3rd story would be set back. It's a common design thing, that architectural recommendation that a lot of communities are using, and it really softens the impact of the height.
So is that all business, or is that business and park?
This is only applicable if it's a mixed-use zoning. So it would be at least 40% of the, what I'm going to call the first floor. It's the first floor above the FEMA guideline. At least 40% of that floor has to be for commercial purposes. So if it's just residential, they cannot take advantage of that additional 3rd floor.
And the parking
The parking would
would remain the same here?
remain the same as you see it on the Esplanade, and they would allow people to park under the building during, non-flood events. Right. I did see somebody post something on Facebook about the tower. Wow, this is going to be almost as tall as the tower. The tower is 70 feet tall. The tower is 8 floors high and 70 feet tall. So just to give you, 47 feet is not 70. It is high.
So 47, and what is existing now? Do we know, is it 40 feet?
It's
How many inches addition? Is it 60?
it's an extra half floor. So, when you think of a half floor, that, any house that has like a Cape Cod design on it that isn't a full floor would be considered a half floor.
So 12 feet?
Each floor is typically between 8 and 10 feet. I'm sorry?
How many more residents are allowed to live there? Is that going to be low-cost housing?
There's three apartments, condos, for every 10,000 square feet of commercial area.
What's that mean?
That means a pretty big condo to me. 3,000 square feet.
If anybody wants to see how ugly 47 feet looks, come down to my house and look at the house that just built next to me, 47 feet high. It's outrageous. It's the most ugliest structure in this town.
Okay.
We don't want to add anything more to what we're building here. The residents come first, not the business. I'd be glad, I do business with these people all the time, but the residences are the ones that we should be catering to, the people who live in their houses.
That's,
And adding, going 3 floors is just gonna add more people that will be congesting this area, more traffic, and more people in our schools, and more people in the sewage treatment plant, and we'll be buying $1 million new fire truck that can go up that high. It's ridiculous. There's no reason for it.
well, one of the reasons for it is to improve the Esplanade. So,
So a 3-story building is gonna improve a 2.5-story building?
2.5-story building doesn't seem to be economically feasible. So,
For reference, that pole over there, is that about a 40-foot telephone pole?
I don't know how tall the telephone
Now,
poles are.
look at the house that they built next to my old house on Central Street. See what 47 feet looks like, with a shed roof on it. It's the most ugliest building in this town. And that's what the zoning allowed them to build.
Just for reference.
Yes.
You figure about 10 feet per story, right?
8 to
And you
10
look-
feet, yeah.
Yeah, and you look over at the ice cream shop and there's 2 stories, 10, 20 feet. So you're saying that it's gonna be 27 feet or at least 20 feet higher than that building?
It could be. It could be.
But
Now,
then you
now,
would-
a lot of that, remember, 12 feet of that is FEMA
I
requirement.
understand, but it's still up in the air.
It's up in the air.
Okay.
Anybody here that's raised a house,
Yep.
you know, which if you haven't yet, you might in the future. You know, flooding is part of
For
our,
a reference.
yeah. Yeah, I've got a house that I raised. It's a single-family house. It's 2 stories high. It's 32 feet in the air. It's 8 feet up, and then you've got 2 stories, and you've got a hip roof. It's 32 feet. Eric?
Scott, the question about the 6-foot setback on the 3rd floor,
Yes.
is that going to be deck space? Because if you got a 6-foot wraparound deck on the 3rd floor, 50 feet up, I think you're kind of loud.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it can be deck space or it has to be. I know that the building itself has to be set back. It's a reasonable question. And we can find out some of the answers to these questions before the October 18th meeting. I just wanted to mention that Article 22 because it directly impacts us. So the way I would think about this is the 2 articles, Article 6 and the second one, you can vote yes on the traffic and no on the other one if you want. If you would also like, in addition to improved traffic and pedestrian safety, if you would like to envision at some point this Esplanade being, with a boardwalk out front or commercial activity. Some people want that, some people don't want it. I understand that. But if that's part of your vision for what the Esplanade could be, the consultants have worked with the town and with the businesses, and this is the feedback that they've gotten. That Brant Rock overlay zoning's been in place now for 6 years, and nothing else has been done. Yes? I would say so. I would say so.
4 feet off the ground.
So it would be another foot.
So, we're gonna vote to have the bullnose design put in,
That's
but
on- right.
that's without all this building going on. So now you have all this building, people live in there more traffic. How does that affect what we would spend on the bullnose design, or
It
does that
doesn't.
get put aside?
No, the bullnose design needs to be done because it needs to be done. So there would be additional traffic using the Esplanade. You know, many of you may remember when there was a movie theater here and a bowling alley here and an Estes Candy Kitchen here and a thriving Arthur and Pat's business. And somehow we all got along and the traffic made its way through the
Will
center.
those businesses chip in to the cost of the bullnose design?
No.
Is it gonna benefit?
No, they're not chipping in. This is part of the, yeah, I mean, they don't, they would definitely be responsible for building the boardwalk in front of their buildings, which would be the equivalent of building your sidewalk in front of, which, you know, some towns require that businesses build their own sidewalk and improve and maintain it, others don't.
But that boardwalk's gonna be 12 feet high, or is it gonna be?
It'll probably be 10 feet high. There'll probably be a step up from the boardwalk into the building, but it will be somewhere in that 10 to 12 feet range. It can look very attractive. There's communities.
Well, I'm just thinking, so if you were saying, like, you have the businesses moving in, and then you have the residents, or you have to have both, I forgot whatever ratio you use.
Yeah.
So who's actually gonna benefit from the boardwalk, even though they're paying for it? If it's businesses, you know,
The
you're gonna have more
the
taxes
businesses
coming
would
in.
benefit from having their customers
Okay.
walk up the boardwalk and walk into their building.
Okay.
But anybody in town can stroll down the boardwalk. That's part of the objective, having it is to create a more enticing environment. Yeah. Some of the parking is going to, in the new Article 22 would be accommodating for the commercial activity would be accommodated under the building, and the residents would have to have raised parking.
historical village, moving towards a Duxbury style town, or we can become Revere in Marshfield. That's your choice.
I don't think we're going for Revere.
Allowing that.
That's not our objective. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got to move on. But there's basically, you don't have. You can vote yes on the article for the traffic and the sidewalk, and you don't have to vote for Article 22, which is the height. I would recommend you do, but you've got to make the decision that you feel right for yourself. Okay. Let me ask Jason from Stantec. So one of the other consultants that's working with us, this is not on the bullnose design, this is not on the traffic right now, it's on the broader improvement for the whole Brant Rock Esplanade area, is Jason with Stantec, and he's been working for several months now on this, so we invited him and just wanted to give him an opportunity to say hello.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you. So, are folks aware of the program that we've been working on since the spring? This is the Local Rapid Recovery Program. This is a state program. It's going around Massachusetts. Anybody heard of this thing or been involved in this process to date? So a few people have been involved. Good. We'll start at the beginning. I'll be kind of brief at all of this. So last fall, the state of Massachusetts received a lot of CARES Act funding, and the governor decided that we needed to be able to respond. Lots of communities were having a hard time due to the pandemic, and they needed to be able to begin to plan for coming out of the pandemic and hopefully making things better in their downtowns. And there was a program through the Department of Housing and Community Development called the Massachusetts Downtown Initiative, and it did small little grants, $15,000 here and there competitively for communities to do things. This program's annual budget was maybe $250,000, and the governor gave it about $10 million, and that was spread all across the state. Over 120 communities submitted to get some planning assistance, and Marshfield was one of them. We still don't know exactly who in Marshfield submitted that grant for Brant Rock, but that person was able to get for Marshfield $60,000. We went straight into a diagnostic program as one of many consultants working for the state that evaluated Brant Rock. And it was really just the commercial area. We didn't even really look at the residences. We looked up and down the Esplanade towards the parking, down to the end up by the church towards the water. And in all of that, we were looking at infrastructure. We were looking at business capacity. There were surveys of the businesses. We were looking at things like storefronts and awnings and the condition of the sidewalk and how the parking was and how the traffic was. And as you know, this area's nice and scored well in some things, but in a lot of things it didn't score very well, which is good because that says, hey, now we can maybe get future funding for projects. And it was those projects that were really important to figure out. And so based on that diagnostic process this spring, we then had a couple of meetings, and we asked a lot of attendees who came to the meetings. We had a nice open house up at Haddaz. It was one of the first kind of like in-person events folks had during the pandemic, and folks voted and said, we want these types of projects. We want you to focus in these areas. And there's a number of projects, over a dozen, that are going to be going into the state for potential funding. There's going to be more funding coming out this fall and certainly next year out of ARPA. And these are federal programs, things like the EDA, MassDOT. Other agencies have their specific programs to spend those monies. And your projects were heavily focused on dealing with flooding issues as much as possible. That was the number one priority that we heard, was how do we get rid of the overtopping the rocks, the basin up to 5 feet in recent memory of water just sitting here damaging businesses. And as you know, it's a very, very, very expensive proposition to completely eliminate that, which is why I think we've heard a lot here today about solutions where you build buildings higher. But because it's a rapid recovery program, we're very focused on solutions that can be implemented quicker than development might come along. So in addition to ideas about how businesses can more or less live with water and make themselves more prepared for it, we looked at things, for instance, like a project is focused on how can local retail and restaurant actually kind of pack up and move quickly when there's a storm coming. So it would be like a containerized business or of a pop-up type of style. For existing buildings, it doesn't work well, but maybe there's training and programs where a lot of the stuff that's in the existing business can be converted to more portable units that can be removed. Oftentimes, it's just a lot of getting the electricity and the HVAC and the plumbing up off of the lower levels of the building, so they can survive flooding for another 10, 20, 30 years of storms. Maybe not 50 and 100 years if sea level rise continues, but it's a good sort of short term. We learned the other day about interesting projects that had to do with temporary barriers. So for instance, you could imagine the jetty, temporary barriers when there's a storm known that's coming being put up. It's not just sandbags, there might be a few posts here and there, and then walls would be dropped in around businesses, and they would be able to hold back a certain amount of flood water, and then after the storm the walls are removed and all that's left are the posts. Fancier versions, they pop up from the ground. I don't think we need that. So these are nice programs. All of them still require money. It's not as expensive as building a boardwalk, or other folks have talked about raising the Esplanade, and there's a lot of negatives of raising absolutely everything, because where does the water go? It goes to other people. It's also very expensive. We also investigated things about, how can we drain the Esplanade faster, and regardless of whether we can fix the floodgates and the pumps, the water's still going to get in here first, and whether it's here for 5 hours or just 1 hour, that 1 hour does plenty of damage. And so we try to come up with ways and ideas to prevent that. But there's other fundamental recommendations that really came out of that, and I know you've talked about, for instance, the traffic solutions at one end, which are one of many problems, and this is just like one map. This is actually the Dyke Road. You can flip it around, Amelia. We also had a map of the lower portion of the Esplanade, yeah, and there's just a lot of things that our diagnostic identified in terms of safety and getting around. So that's a rough intersection, but this parking doesn't work very well. A lot of people will talk and complain about that, and it doesn't work well oftentimes because it's angled in parking. So angled in parking means you're backing out into traffic, and that slows people up, and you don't really know what you're seeing, particularly if you're backing out on the wrong side of the street. It's much harder to see cars coming. So we've investigated doing, 2 roads with parallel parking up the entire thing. And, if we can be a little bit smart about the Esplanade, that actually may not lose any parking at all. But we also need to think carefully about when somebody arrives. How do they walk around? How do they enjoy it? And so I'm looking at a crosswalk right here. It's not compliant with any modern standards. It's nice that it's red, but there's no detectables for somebody who's, a little visually impaired. There's no curb ramp for somebody in a wheelchair, much less with a baby stroller on the other side. And that's true of almost all the crosswalks along here. So a little bit of funding to make the crosswalks better can actually make things better for residents and for visitors, and of course for the businesses and who are, struggling to continue to stay in business, who often are not seeking a lot of the reconstruction funds after a storm comes, because eventually those funds will run out. So that's why we're talking about programs that will hopefully protect them a little bit more, things that will make Brant Rock hopefully a little bit safer, a little bit nicer. There's a mobility plan recommendation, a parking plan recommendation. There's recommendations for resilient businesses, pop-up retail, like I was saying, more investigation of the floodwaters. Remind me, Amelia, there's other programs in there. Yeah, pedestrian streetscape, green stormwater infrastructure.
Administrative capacity.
Definitely administrative capacity. That's a good one to remind me of also, is that you've got an excellent chamber in Marshfield, and we were thinking that there might be an opportunity to actually make more of a business association and presence for Brant Rock, to be a little bit more separate, a separate identity, and frankly, and the ending, and I'll stop and take any quick questions and give you back the mic, Scott, is that really in the end, there's going to be a lot of potential money out there. You don't get money for free, you have to put some effort into it. A lot of these grants, this grant that we're working on was 100% free, and the Marshfield didn't even have to sign a contract. They just sent a letter that said, yes, we want these people to work with us. And a lot of the upcoming money might be like that, but you can imagine if you actually kind of got together in a little bit more of a coordinated fashion and looked at all of these problems and didn't just focus on a specific problem, but focused on the entirety of them across all the things that we looked at. And you actually kind of got behind that vision of, wow, there's a lot of things that we can deal with. you can actually get a large grant. And that takes a little bit of effort to write, and so one of our recommendations is more staff capacity in the town to be able to write it. But you could win a grant for millions of dollars that would take care of the crosswalks, help the buildings, deal with the flooding, deal with the bulb out, the other intersections, all that all at once. And that's kind of a really good direction to go in. So I encourage you, we're going to have our report produced on October 8th. Happy to hear any questions that anybody has about that process as well.
I have a couple. So October 8th is when the readout will be? Will that be done for the town, or will that be made available?
Yeah, October 8th deadline is for us to submit the report to the state. I think it'll be online soon thereafter. And then the town can do whatever process that they want to share that. I guess it's out in advance of your upcoming town meeting, I'm not sure.
The special town meeting is the 18th, so I'm assuming that.
Okay.
So, but forgive me because I'm not new to this, but when you're submitting things to the state, it's all based upon your findings, and then there would be dollar amounts that you would say, Brant Rock really needs $1 million for sidewalks.
Yeah.
And my phone keeps ringing. So, you will then, whatever you then submit to the state, then is available to the town, and then it's up to the town to distribute it then to the town.
Yeah, and it's still going to be competitive and based on need.
Okay.
So we're preparing a plan that says you need, $5 million worth of stuff. And that's spread across a dozen different things. You can choose to go after any one of them or none of them. You can chase your own thing on your own. That's perfectly fine. Or you can bundle it all into one big program like I was just suggesting, but that would take the town the next effort to do that. Just as a quick aside, the state is planning on providing funding to be able to help communities do that as well.
Okay, that's great. And then, who do we talk to?
Mary, you're gonna have to speak up.
Sorry. Who would we talk to at the state if we wanted to be able to follow up? Do we go to
I'm wondering, who do we follow up with the state if we want to follow up on this money, right? So, Jason, you've done a great job. You're putting together a wonderful proposal. We go to the town if we want to get a copy of what you put together. And then who do we go to at the state if we really back this and we really want to support it? Because I think we will.
Yeah, I want to encourage you all to, first of all, Scott is somebody who's a good resource, who's always talking to folks in the town. He's aware of, who the staff is and who to contact. So he's a great resource, but also yourselves, just reaching out to folks in the planning department, public works, anywhere. Just let your local, town meeting members, et cetera, know. You really get the word out as much as possible. So the town itself, as a state municipality, usually is the applicant. They're the ones who have to go out, and so the town manager, Mike's on board, and he's going to be the one who puts in the application. But that's the best mechanism for doing it. But reach out to folks like Greg and Karen in the planning and others to say to them, this is something we're really interested in. We heard about it. I saw the report. Item 5 was great. Let's all get behind it. And that can be another meeting. You all agree, yeah, let's support all these things, whatever it is. But the more momentum and support and kind of unity around things, the more likely you're actually going to get awarded something.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. So nice job, very helpful. So just to build on that quickly, and then we'll move on to the next topic, which I'll hand it back to Mary for. So let's say the design gets approved, the engineering costs get approved at the October 18th meeting. The environmental partner groups spend the winter doing the actual engineering drawings and estimating what the total cost of construction would be. They'll also apply for some of these grants that Jason, let's say the cost comes, I have no idea what it's going to be. Let's just say $1 million. I've been told it's going to be at least $1 million to actually do the work out here. There are grants available. Jason's mentioned a couple of them. There's a Complete Streets grant that's available. There's a large infrastructure program nationally that's going to be voted on, and the expectation is some of those infrastructure dollars would be available to the town. So the more we're ready to say, yes, this is what we want, the more likely we are to get that. So the funding would be approved at the April town meeting, and then the actual work would get scheduled once the funding is approved. Best case, the work would be done in the second half of 2022. It could be as late as 2023. I know that's a long time, and I know people are impatient, but we've started the process, and we're on our way. So, Mary, let me turn it over to you.
Do you want to give an update on environmental partners, the bullnose designer?
No, not really. We do have Benny here. Benny, raise your hand. Benny's with the Environmental Partner Group. That's the group that actually did the bullnose design. So, if there's anything you'd like to say, but yeah.
Well, I mean, we on the, why not?
Give him the mic.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, I'll use the mic. Yeah, so we prepared the concept plan for the town, so to prove the, that's what Scott said, we'll prove the design so they can get moving on the design, as well as at the same time, we are applying for a complete street funding, so hopefully we can get some of the money toward to some of the, like the ADA compliance sidewalk, ramp, so we can get ahead of it, so get some more funding for that, for the town. So why not, is what Scott said, so probably you should, hopefully, approve, have the town approve for the funding for that, so just vote yes for that one, for the Article 6. Yeah.
Article 6, line item 32.
Line item for 32, so once you get the town approve it, so we can get the voting on that one, so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Mary?
Thank you.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much. All right, moving along in our agenda, I just wanted to quickly call people out. Some recognition first, actually. Wanted to, I don't know if everybody has noticed the esplanade up front and the beautiful flowers and the different colored pumpkins and the rose bushes we've been planting and all this great stuff to beautify. Yay! And I gave Linda Conley, who's one of my neighbors, she's awesome, and she's been doing it for years and years and years. So she's fantastic. Big round of applause for Linda. And then also Marion, who, I don't know where she came from, but like, you just came out of the sky to us, and she's like phenomenal. If you've ever seen her house, it's beautiful. I mean, it looks like Kennedy's, all right? And she's just sprinkling her pixie dust everywhere in Brant Rock. So we're just here giving her a gift card and some new gloves. It's for all the awesome work. And you wouldn't believe, I mean, she's out there all the time. So thank you so much. It's beautiful. And then I also wanted to mention a couple of other folks. We have 3 families that have purchased benches for loved ones. Those benches we thought were going to be here in mid-November. They're now been delayed to mid-December. So we do plan on still installing them. We purchased them. We spent the money. They're coming. We also just, again, purchased the new rose bushes. We updated the Mary Robinson sign, if anybody looks, so it was kind of battered a little bit. So we're just kind of giving things a little bit of an update to make it look a little bit nicer. Again, going along with our beautification and safety, which Scott was talking about. I think there were 2 articles being discussed. The first one, Article 6. That's the safety. That's the sidewalks. That's the bullnose design. The other, Article 22, however you decide on that, is really more on the other side of the road, thinking about raising the heights and what Scott had outlined. So we really hope, as a part of the Brant Rock Village Association and residents, that you at least come out, vote September 18th, Article 6, October 18th, Article 6. It will be done by a lottery, right? And we really hope that there's only one day. It could go to 2 days, the special town meeting. So we're going to really just have to try to figure out a way to stay connected and make certain that everybody is involved and we all show up to make certain that we're able to push this through. And then hopefully we can get the funding, as you just heard from Stan Tech, and the grants, and really make this place look really, really nice. Couple of updates on budget. Yes, I was. Well, I was going to, of course. No, of course I'm going to mention. So we have Celeste and, I gotta put my glasses on, I'm so sorry. Celeste and Robin, who purchased one for a loved one. Laura, sorry. And then we also have another, yes. We have another one that was purchased by Diane, the Snell Groves, for their daughter Tori, who recently passed. And then we also have Lisa Kelly, who's here, who actually had gathered around with a whole bunch of neighbors who have purchased a bench for Pete, and I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, Tengway, 100-year-old Brant Rock resident who recently passed. So very, very exciting news there. So thank you very much. for that. And one of the things that we have out here is, we're trying to develop some committees where we really want people to help and sign up. So we have beach improvements, safety and Esplanade is another one, flooding, if people want to help us, work with the Army Corps of Engineers, see what we can do, we're not sure. But just really have a conversation. And then the other component with our Brant Village Association is about information and making certain everyone is informed about the happenings that's happening here in Brant Rock, right? And it's really through education, and that's going to be one of the things that Paul Kaufman has been looking at to help us with the 501c3. So we really want to start to educate people about town, how town works, what's important that's coming up to the town, in particular Brant Rock. Like, I know you can't go to every meeting. No one can go to every meeting. I'm retired and I can't certainly go to every meeting. But there's got to be a way for us to be more connected and really show up when it matters. And that's really why we're here. We're really here to show up when it matters. And so one of the things that I know people have been... round of applause. Yeah, let's show up when it matters, right? We're all here. And we also have, I know, Pam, who is Keith, who's here. We're going to talk a little bit about the town pier, because I know there's a lot of people here that also want to talk about that. And I see Lori over there. There's definitely a lot of different things that are happening within Brant Rock, and there's been a lot of great developments that have happened, and we just want to keep it going. And we want to make certain that the town and the town officials all know what the priority is based upon the residents, and really making certain that the community is involved in every single decision so that it's a good one for everyone. Because at the end of the day, we are Marshfield, all of us collectively together. So with that, I wanted to really have a handout for all of you to show you when all the various happenings are at town meeting. And unfortunately, I did not get an email from Mike Moresco until this morning. But I can tell you there's a couple of different things that are coming up. So tomorrow, there's a joint meeting that's happening with the advisory board and the board of selectmen for the special town meeting that's being discussed. And if anybody wants, it's on the Marshfield government site. If you just Google Marshfield government, it pops up. It's like a 56-page document. You probably don't want to kill your printer like I did, but if you want, you can look at it. That's at 7 o'clock tomorrow at the Marshfield High School. The special town meeting was another one that he informed us of that's happening on the 18th. And that is also something that will be at the Marshfield High School gym, the special town meeting. The BOS, so the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board meetings, they always meet Monday nights at the Town Hall. So if anybody has anything like that, I'm going to be putting this in an email as well. The ZBA and the Conservation meet always on Tuesday nights. And I was told to go to the Marshfield site if we had any other questions. So really what I want to do in my investigation for everyone before our next meeting is I want to actually come up with a running list of all the different boards, what they do, when they meet, so we know exactly who we need to talk to when certain things come up. And Steve Lynch, maybe you can help me. That's what I'm thinking. But that's really what I had going on. I do want to have Pam come up, and I want to talk a little bit about the town pier. I've gotten a lot of people that have been vocalized about this, wanting to wrap around it, speak, see what we can do as a community, if we like it, if we don't like it. From my perspective, from a Brant Rock Village Association, is we just want to make certain everybody is informed and they're able to make their own decision. Again, I bring it back to beautification and safety. And I think from a safety perspective, we really should be thinking about the Esplanade before we think about any sort of parking lot that might have some sort of safety implications. But there you go. I'll hand it over to Pam.
Hi, I want to start out, first of all, I didn't prepare very well. And I just scribbled a bunch of notes. I have no printer right now. It's kind of like you. So I just scribbled a bunch of notes here to try to go over some things, so I have no handout. I do want to state, I'm not an expert at anything, just a townsperson, and I'm not a lawyer. And so if I do get into some zoning laws, it's just stuff that I've kind of learned by myself as best as I can, but I just want to make sure that everybody's clear on that. I'm not trying to be a lawyer or anything standing here. I do want to say, I don't know if everybody's aware, I'm assuming maybe you are, but aware of the project that's being planned right now is a 2-acre, basically a bulldozing of the land, filling it in, just leaving it as a dirt flat space really, supposedly being used as a parking lot. That's the use that's kind of been, that is in the application as the main use, would be a parking lot. The history of the area, just to go over it very quickly, is there were big debates on this entire area in the harbor. Back in the 60s, there was even a committee to develop everything there. 200 boat slips dredged the harbor, all kinds of stuff like that. That was all abandoned, especially I think because they needed the sewer plant. And in 1972, that committee existed into the late 60s. It was disbanded at some point in 68, 69, 70, and by 72 we had adopted our zoning bylaw, which is what really stands today as the meat of the zoning bylaw. It goes all the way back to 1972. So they abandoned the plans then. In the 80s, there was a 3 or 4 or 5 year, almost a battle over getting Harbor Park built or what was going to be done with the land. And at one point, the town wanted to fill and sell the land, maybe for, at that time, maybe $1 million, and get condos built there. So there was a fight as to, do we leave it for dredge spoils? Do we leave it, do we want a park? At one point, they wanted a 4 or 6 acre park, the people who eventually did create Harbor Park. But also, some people wanted condos. So that's just a brief history. There has been a lot of different ideas about this kind of, the use for this particular land. So we're down to, I don't know, there's about 4 acres there. It could be as much as 6, but we'll call it somewhere in between that. Oh, by the way, though, too, the 1972 zoning bylaw was definitely, it was a 6-night vote at town meeting. It's definitely in a very intentional vote. They laid the coastal wetlands district over the entire town pier, which is not a wetlands, and that entire area. So that's the zoning district there that exists today. It, again, very intentional. And in the 1980s, there was actually a town meeting vote to rezone to build these condos, and that failed. That the town voted no development there at the time. So again, that's where we are today. We really have never had a vote since that I know of. I want to get into something that's really, really brand new, and I'm not trying to spread any type of rumor at all, but I know I've talked to Mary and Eric lately, and I wasn't even aware of this until we just went to the Waterways meeting, and I know Mary and Eric were there, and maybe Steve, and I'm not sure whoever else in the audience may have been there. We went to the Waterways meeting, and Mike DeMeo had mentioned something that he's now mentioned 2 or 3 times in different meetings. He mentioned using the dredge spoils area to store dredge spoils, to nourish beaches, which is a side issue. We are undergoing some possible beach nourishment plans. There are grants out there now. The state is into grants for beach nourishment. I do want to say, there is a small blurb online at the town website. If you Google Marshfield beach nourishment, you'll probably find it. This beach here is not on the list.
Correct.
Yeah. So, because
That's a problem.
yeah. So it's really the only place that needs beach nourishment, and it's not on the list. So I'm glad you saw that. So, but at the Waterways meeting, I noticed one thing. The harbor master was talking about possibly selling sand. And this is something new that he has now said 2 or 3 times lately. So I started to, all of a sudden it started to register with me. Eric had asked, what the heck really is the use of this? The agenda items keep saying Harbor Park parking, dredge spoils parking, town pier parking, it's all over the place. And now he's talking about selling sand. I went to look the other night about something I had read before about confined disposal facilities. The definition, there is a state law now that took effect in 2014. There's a section about confined disposal facilities and other types of disposal methods for dredge spoils. A confined disposal facility is apparently what we have here. It's just a simple, nothing fancy, don't have to have it lined or anything like that. It's a simple area near or usually in wetlands, surrounded by some type of berm, usually an earthen berm. That appears to be the exact definition of what we have. Those confined disposal facilities, as of 2014, cannot be located within 500 feet of a home. And most of that area is within 500 feet of several homes. So I'm starting to think, this is where, I'm not trying to spread rumors, but I think this is the number one most important thing right now that people should try to find out. I did write a quick, messy request for information. I put one in already that's kind of vague, but this one could be more specific to this. It's CMR 314-9. I'm starting to think that our dredge spoils area as we know it, where we dumped, capped, reseeded with grass seed, and left it alone, is done under the state law. And our town had been making statements back in 2004 through 2009 that they were closing this area. So I'm starting to think that our coastal wetlands bylaw prohibits dumping. Every time we've dumped there has really been against the bylaw all these years. They keep giving a special permit. It's not in the bylaws. There is no special permit to dump there. It's prohibited. So I'm starting to think that between our own bylaw, if you were to argue that dumping is prohibited, and now the state law that maybe says this can't be within 500 feet, that this thing is closed. But that leaves you with one other thing in the CMR. There's a thing called an intermediate facility. And these places, the first one that I mentioned, confined disposal facility, cannot be near schools, nursing homes, regular residential homes. But when you get to intermediate facility, they leave out residential homes. Can't be near schools, can't be near nursing homes, can't be near daycare centers, but they leave out residential homes. You can apparently bring in fill, bring in dredge spoils, dump, and transport them out. And our harbor master is talking about even possibly selling them. So if we allow at the next zoning meeting on September 28th for them to gloss over what the real use is of this property, they want to give out a special permit, a 10.10 permit, which is normally for a use. There's a very specific attached to use. It's supposed to be in the table of uses. So like a tennis club in the residential zone might be a permit, a daycare center might be a permit. There's no use. The first application that came out does not have a use listed in it that needs a special permit. So it's almost like a blanket special permit that gives permission to operate, like you would give a tennis club or a restaurant or whatever. It's like a license to operate. And we're giving a license to operate for a big, flat, hard-packed dirt surface that right now there's no need, the need for the town pier for extra trailers, there's no need for that. We just had Lobster Fest. Lobster Fest the light bulb just went on here too. Lobster Fest is a street festival. You can't park in that parking lot during that street festival. So you don't need it for a big event like Lobster Fest. The harbor master is going to need it if he reconstructs the pier. But I also think he may need it for a new use of dredge spoils. And I think that between now and September 28th, I was planning on writing a letter. I was hoping if people can sign on, and I can get 10, 20, 30, 40 signatures, if I can walk the streets eventually, because I don't have the letter written. There is a new application out, I have to read it first. But
And that actually helps us too. So a couple of things on that point. We do have a sign-up sheet over here because we do, when we do want to get the word out, right? Like we want to get signatures. We need neighborhood captains. We need somebody. So if you're on a street and you don't see any of your neighbors around, if you wouldn't mind signing up, that would be fantastic. So that we can spread the word. And it seems like PM, September 28th zoning board is the most important date that we're hearing.
I just finished up about the application.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Is this plan you're talking about what I would think of as the parking lot opposite the Harbor Park?
Yes, across from Harbor Park, you see the small dirt parking lot?
Right.
Behind that is 4 acres of land. I have a picture, I could show you afterwards. I have the plan, but the plan is to take where you see the dirt parking lot, is to go back, you're talking about 500 feet. He's talking about 100,000 square feet of land. It's about 500 by 200.
And the DPW has to give him that land?
No, right now, there's confusion over, the town took the land in 1931, but somewhere between then and now, the DPW shows up on the assessor's database as the custodian. I'm thinking that the town is now backing off. I don't think they're going to go through the DPW anymore. I think they want to skip that step because so far Harbor Mass has been before them 3 times and they haven't signed. But the real issue is, if that dredge spoils area is closed as we know it, partly because of state law and then our own law, they're really creating new uses. And those new uses, you can't do through the permits they want to do. A non-conforming special permit, you cannot change the use, that's not allowed. You cannot change the use in a substantially different way. And this is where I'm saying, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read these rules pretty easily and I can read court cases. You can't grow a non-conforming use. The dredge spoils area does not conform to the bylaw. The bylaw is about the natural coastal wetlands. You can't grow a non-conforming use in a substantial way. You can't change the use. I think, which I've already said to Mary and Eric, I've said it to the reporter when I got a chance to speak to him. I said it to Mike DeMayo at the Waterways meeting. This project, what they maybe want to do there, what might become, this is a foot in the door. If you bulldoze and put this flat area in there, and then there's dredge pools coming in and out, you could be grabbing sand from other places. I mean, the activities that can go on might not be parking. This needs to go through town meeting. This needs to go through the proper rezoning channels. They are rezoning the land without going through the proper channels. And the proper channels are to go to the planning board. You have a public hearing. The planning board makes all their suggestions. The public weighs in. It goes to town meeting for a zoning vote, 2/3 vote. And again, that's why I started with the history. There was a big zoning vote in 1972 that involved this land, and there was another big vote in the 1980s. We're missing out on the vote because it's going through the zoning board, and they're planning on granting a 1010 permit to operate something. I don't even know what it is. Nobody does right now. And they're also trying to give them now, I told them that the entire application, which I have in this folder, was filled out stating that this was an expansion of a non-conforming use. They filled out a certain form in the application. When you fill out that form, you have to go for a permit. It's a 10.12 special permit. There's two different kinds of special permits. He didn't ask for the 10.12. It's not in the front of the application or in the public hearing notice. And now that's the one. It comes with a checklist of 10 items. And one of the items is, are you expanding in a substantially different way? I don't think they want to discuss that. So I wrote them a 2-page letter back a month ago when they had the first hearing, and they've now changed the application. They just came out with a new one. New abutters notice just came out, just were in the mail, I guess, today or around now. They've had to re-advertise the whole hearing. And again, I'm not the expert. They are. And for that application to be wrong in the first place shows me they're avoiding something. They're avoiding talking about substantially expanding a non-conforming use. It can't be done legally. That's all I have to say.
And so, no, but your last part is, where do you want people here?
Oh, and well, I do have some scribbles about, again, unless somebody else here has different information, when I read this little blurb, it's just one line, but it's pretty easy to understand. When they say a confined disposal facility cannot be within 500 feet of a home, I'd like to know what the town knows about that. So,
What do you want people to do?
well, I have one piece of paper here that if people want to just sign, throw their names on, don't even need an address or anything. I just want to show the town that X number of people are interested in that particular topic because I'm going to put in an information request. And then the other thing is, I do want to write a letter that's more specific. The zoning board, they've done this before. They will have a hearing where they gloss over some unimportant lines of the bylaw, and they will not focus on the important ones, like a simple statement like you can't dump or fill in the coastal wetland zone. So I would like to write a letter that has the specifics that they are supposed to go over, and then have people sign it that kind of forces them to have a proper conversation. And then the third thing is that people should, if they can, go to the zoning meeting, or if you have your own comments, or again, I'm hoping to get in touch with as many people as I can, but you should somehow make your voice heard for the September 28th zoning hearing, which I think is probably at 7 o'clock, maybe 6:30, because I think, yeah, 6:30, because they have a lot of things on the agenda. But so in some way before then, you know, if I have to, maybe I can put an email out if people want to sign a letter. But if you want to write your own comment, it doesn't even have to be fancy. Piece of paper, you know.
That's perfect.
And get your voices heard for that.
Oh, wait, one question. And we were trying to, we're going to close it up.
Looking at the big picture here, if they do approve it as a spoils dumping area, you have to think about the increased traffic you're going to have in Brant Rock, because you're going to have heavy duty equipment, you're going to have trucks going up down the road and everything else, beating the heck out of the roads, and safety issues there too. Right now, they haven't done a traffic study, and that's paramount about anything. They have to do a traffic study. That small bridge down there, if they say they're going to take the spills in and out down Drybeck Road down there, that bridge will not hold the heavy-duty trucks. The trucks will be coming through the center of the town.
Thank you for that. And one other thing too, again, only because we're about beauty and safety, I did contact the EPA, the state and the federal. I've been asking them to really look at this, the testing that's been done to make certain that it is safe in case something does happen. I just, you know, we don't want anything bad to go on. But I want to end this on a good note. So we got a couple of great fundraising items that are, oh, wait a minute, got another question.
You just mentioned one of the testing that's been done. I'm not aware that any testing has been done.
Well, so I've been having conversations with the state, and they have this thing called the 401. I don't know, it's some sort of bylaw, where every time they do dredge, they have to test before they put it down on the land. And if it doesn't test accordingly to be put on land, then it gets put out to sea. However, we know that that spot has there's been putting dredge on that spot since the 70s. And so I had mentioned to the state is that the testing in the 70s is a little bit different than the testing that's now today. And I really feel as though something should happen. And there was a group of us that got together at a DPW meeting, and we did say we wanted traffic, we wanted testing. They didn't want to do it, but they are doing it. And so I think that's what we're being told. And my thought is if we're able to get along with the state too, maybe if the DPW is able to test, maybe we can have them look at the testing. Let's just make certain it's all on the up and up. Again, it's from a safety perspective. I'm just concerned about all the various citizens living in Brant Rock and, you know, just wherever this dust may go if it did happen. But that's what I'm told. So all right, so end on a good note. So we got a couple of things coming up. First of all, our next BRVA meeting is going to be on November 8th. It is going to be at the Harbor Master at their function room over there. I saw it last week and I thought to myself, it's a great place for Brant Rock Village Association to meet, so we'll be all meeting over there next time. But I do want to thank the Jetty each time hosting us. They're amazing. Are they not? Huge. I mean, and great bands. I mean, what music they have here, right? It's amazing. A couple of other things we're working on. Pub crawl. Brant Rock Pub Crawl is going to be November 6th. It's going to be a Saturday. It's the last Saturday before the point closes. I am creating a website. It's going to be up and running by the end of the week, so you can sign up. You can get your shirt if you want and come with us to each one of them. We're going to be starting at the point. We're going to the Fairview, going to Haddad's, and down here to the Jetty to end the night. So I think that is really going to be fun. A couple of other things we're looking at, and we're really going to be talking to the selectmen about, is a casino night. Could we do a casino night in Brant Rock? You know, like, could we make it so that it could be, and all this fundraising is really to, again, beautify, really around here to buy more plants. We're looking to purchase flags for all the telephone poles to make it look really cute and quaint when you come in. And again, just really looking at that. And then the last piece that we're looking at is another event with the historical committee. Doing it up at the Fairview, doing some sort of look-back dinner, so a historical event looking at Brant Rock as, again, a kind of a little bit of a fundraiser, a get-together. And so that's what I got. So again, we hope everyone will be October 18th, Article 6, voting yes. Hoping to get that improvement through. We want curbs, we want sidewalk, we want to make certain that the dirt stays in the middle for the rose bushes that we planted. And, you know, really the next BRVA meeting is going to be on November 8th. So, and we will be sending out a reminder to everyone. We will send out meeting notes. I know we've talked a lot about different things. And, you know, if people do have concerns about this, if you could reach out to Pam over here about the town pier. I think we can all rally around her, and Pam, I'm willing to help you, you know, spread the word. Again, the really what we're trying to do here in this association is make certain everybody's informed. You know, what's happening in the neighborhood. So anyway, that's it. Thanks so much. Thanks for coming. Everyone have a great night. What do I do?